Hey, what's going on, Archons? Welcome to another episode of KeyThoughts, my weekly vlog on my musings on this great game of KeyForge. And this week I have a pretty interesting topic to discuss that I feel is inspired by this past week, or this current week, I guess, League ABR format. And at the same time, it has absolutely nothing to do with this league week's format, even though I can pass it off as such. So the other day when I was playing with my friend Sierra Alpha, he did something that kind of blew my mind in a way. And we're going to get to this in one moment, what that is. But first, we must do the card of the week. And this week, the card of the week is... Come on, focus. Work with me here. There we go. Final Analysis. So this card is not something that's new or unknown to the community, but I wanted to highlight this card because I think it's such an interesting design and opportunity, because for those of you who don't know, Final Analysis says destroy each creature. Each player draws a card for each creature they controlled that was destroyed this way. So, I mean, fantastic card, but it's such an interesting card to me because of the opportunity cost of you trying to get more creatures out than your opponent. Maybe your opponent has no creatures. It's just the way you're trying to make that work so that you can draw more cards than your opponent, because you are undoubtedly giving your opponent an advantage to a degree. So it's pretty interesting. I also find this card interesting as well because you can use it, draw a ton of cards, and then you get the situation where, as maybe the player or the opponent who gets the benefit of drawing cards, you're stuck with a whole house or majority of a house in your hand, and you know that until you call that house, you're not going to draw. So I think it can make an interesting situation, decision space where, like, okay, I got to play all these cards out because I have so many in my hand, but my board is also really strong right now, but I've already played some cards and I need to cycle back into them because those cards are key for what I want to do with my game plan. So I think it makes an interesting, like, hand clogging, we're going to call it, but I really feel it's not, because having that many cards of one house is still really good. So I just find it interesting that it can kind of create a situation where your opponent cannot cycle the same way as quickly to draw back, but once it's going to basically take 2 or 3 turns, because once you do that, you're going to have to play one house, play the other house, and then cycle. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing. You're obviously going to have a massive board afterwards, but I just like that decision space that the card brings, and that's why I wanted to highlight it this week, because I think it's such a neat and fun way of key forging and doing some cool stuff, and not just helping yourself, but potentially helping your opponent. So the opportunity cost, which is kind of a theme for this week. So as I mentioned, the topic this week is going to actually be about perspective. So this week in the ABR, the format is adaptive. And I think it's interesting because watching someone else play your deck can sometimes really provide some interesting insight. They will make decisions or do things that maybe you would not do, and therefore you get to see something within your deck that you never considered and have a fun little aha moment and learn another level to what a card within your deck can do in certain situations. Now, the reason why this is relevant for me and what I'm talking about is my friend, he plays my decks all the time, but there's one Dark Tidings deck he has particularly been drawn to and is masterfully learning it and wrecking me with it at the same time. And he did something that I have legitimately never considered doing, and part of it is opportunity cost. So what my friend did, he was going to play an infighting, but he noticed on my side of the board that some creatures were not quite powerful enough to take out the creature to the right. And those were, I guess, prime targets for him. A lot of the times this is because when I know infighting exists, I will specifically, meticulously arrange my battle line when possible so that the damage from the creature to the right will not be lethal to the creature beside it. So what he did was he took a Reap or so and was like, oh, I'm not going to ready and Reap with a creature, which I feel like is what is done a lot with that card. It's my main usage of it, to the point where I don't even consider the counters, because there are so many great creatures within Dark Tidings with amazing Reap abilities. But what he did was he took those +1 power counters and he put them on 3 of my creatures that would then take out the creature, so the infighting was stronger and had a greater effect. And I just never considered doing that before, and it was a really cool aha moment. I was like, wow, this is pretty awesome. And that is the perspective of having someone else play your deck, and you get to see things done from their point of view and their mentality within the game of KeyForge. And I think there's a lot of value to that. So don't be afraid to let other people play your deck, or even swap decks with people just to play, so you can have that experience of seeing someone else play your deck. Now, just a one-off may not glean as much information, but if you have a friend that you both are willing to go down that path, maybe do a couple games. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. What do we got going on? We got some Patreon deck supporter videos coming your way. And for those of you who don't know, I did my draw this past week to determine who the 3 people were and the deck they get to choose. And guess what? Lo and behold, it worked out. Everyone chose the same deck. So that means we're going to see who played it better and who ends up with this deck. And I will be commentating on these games once they get arranged. We just got to do some scheduling stuff. So hopefully before the end of this month, we'll have that all wrapped up. And I think it's going to be pretty exciting. It's some neato stuff that could go down here. I've never seen this done before, where 2 people play the same deck against itself. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I will be talking the game through as they play. So it's Vault Boy and Rickster and my guy Steve Kingswell from the UK going to be facing off. So be sure to stay tuned for that. And as always, folks, may your ember never be stolen and your keys forged promptly. Have a good one.